Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you are. Hello, thank you for watching my videos. It's February 19th, 2009. Okay, some funny stuff to begin. Charm offensive. Why India's snake men and their serpents are taking to the streets. Apparently in India, the snake charmers over there are up in arms, or raising their snakes in the air, I suspect. Evidently there are roughly 800,000 snake charmers in India. Yeah, you don't want to get on the wrong side of these guys. But there was a law passed in 1972, a Wildlife Protection Act of some description, that basically made it illegal for these snake charmers to have snakes. Well, they basically ignored that for a while. Now, however, the police are really starting to crack down on them, and the snake charmers are forming a union. The National Union of Snake Charmers of India. Okay. Basically to protest and try to get the law changed, etc., etc. Now, what they're saying, they're claiming that there is a snake venom mafia operating in India. And they are behind the government operation to clamp down on this particular group of individuals. He said that in a single strike, a snake can release about 12 grams of venom. And that venom could fetch up to 130 pounds. That's a lot of money. So there you go. Snake charmers being harassed by snake venom mafia. What is the world coming to? Far more serious news. From the FT. UK overshoots borrowing target. This was released this morning at 10:30 or so. Yeah, roughly. Public finances took a sharp turn for the worse in the crucial month of January. Okay, what's this about? Right. The UK government, suddenly enough, has suddenly realized that, hey, we're not getting as much tax revenue in. That's because there's not as many people working. And more importantly, if you think about bankers, let's just for a second stop and think about bankers. Bankers get ridiculous bonuses. I know because I used to be involved in finance, and I occasionally would get a silly bonus, and it would be like... Oh. Anyway, over here in the UK, the top tax rate is 40%. So let's pretend that a banker gets $500,000 as a bonus. Well, that $500,000 immediately, 2 million goes to the, the 200,000 goes to the coffers of our treasury. So, if banks aren't going to be paying huge bonuses anymore, that money's not going to go back to the government. And of course, people are working shorter weeks, they're working fewer hours, overtime's being cut, and so the money flowing into the bank, into the treasury from all of these people out here is declining dramatically. The same thing is about to occur in the States. In April. This is why a lot of the comments that I see are basically saying, okay, wait till April. April's when the collapse is going to start. I know, but I'm trying to get people to wake up and listen, so I occasionally use ridiculous headlines to get people in. However, the truth is out there. April time, April, May, things are really going to start looking bad in the States. They're going to start looking bad in the next couple of months here in the UK. Now, one of the other things in the article that hasn't really been pointed out to people is way down at the bottom. Way down at the bottom. Sorry. Mint tea with honey. Make my throat so I don't cough as much. Make any funny noises with my mouth. Way down at the bottom. Office of National Statistics also announced it had decided that such is the government's control over the Lloyds banking group that it would classify the company as a public corporation, joining Royal Bank of Scotland, Northern Rock, and Bradford and Bingley as British banks with this status. Effectively, the Office of National Statistics has said, yes, the UK government has nationalised these banks. Whoa. So, what banks aren't nationalised? Well, we have the banks that are owned by the group Santander from Spain, but I'm racking my head. Barclays, I guess. HBOS. No, HBOS is Lloyds now, so it's HSBC, Barclays, Standard Chartered. That's about it. The rest of them, they're all owned by the government. Yeah, Lloyds Banking Group and Royal Bank of Scotland Group. That be owned by citizens of the UK now. Stock prices on the banking stocks have gone up. Oddly enough, that's fine. But the FTSE in general is starting to climb. It's currently down 0.5% or so. I expect that will continue. There's a couple of other articles linked there about the public finances and how this is going to impact our debt load in the UK. Of course, this is going to have a knock-on effect on the gilts and the bonds that the UK sells for its debt. Probably the credit insurance is going to climb, credit default insurance. I mean, it's going to be a huge knock-on effect. So, national debt could send, bank bailout could send national debt soaring by £1.5 trillion, is the Guardian's headline. Terrible tax returns for January. Yeah, go figure. Hello. Nobody saw this coming? Whoa. Okay. More important news from the eastern side of Europe. Ukraine must be rescued from tragi-comedy for Europe's sake. Basically, Ambrose Evans Pritchard, in his article today, goes on about what's happening in the Ukraine. Ukrainian finance minister has resigned in disgust. IMF has left. They're not going to give them the second half of their money they had promised. Kiev is starting to talk to Russia. It's just going to snowball. There's going to be all kinds of bad things happening. Swiss banks, Austrian banks, they have a lot of the debt in Eastern Europe. They're going to start going. Polish banks are going to go. It's going to be a complete mess if Europe decides to leave Ukraine to its own devices. Now, over in Brussels, EU leaders are talking about they are ready to coordinate a pan-European response to contain the crisis before matters get out of hand. However, you know what they're like in Brussels. They're going to yak about this stuff for days and days and days, and nothing will get decided. Oh, it's going to be a big mess. It's going to come rolling across the continent. Okay. Over in the States, Federal Reserve moves to bolster U.S. deflation defenses. Now, this is all this nonsense about, okay, they're going to start doing what they're calling monetary easing. It's quantitative easing, people. If you're really interested in quantitative easing, the BBC website, there's an economist there. She's saying, it's not so bad, it's not so bad. Yeah, you obviously went to university with a whole bunch of Keynesian fans. I mean, this is nuts. But that's how the world works today, so we're going to have to live with it for a while. However, down at the bottom of this article about the Fed, they're forecasting inflation. Currently they're saying, okay, we've got to fight this deflation, we're going to fight it, we're going to stop it, we're going to, get it under reins. Now, why is deflation a problem? Deflation is not a problem to you and me. It means that prices go down, and yes, people go out of work, but, there's always things that we can help each other out. Deflation really ticks off governments because it drops their tax revenue. This is why governments hate deflation, because their tax revenues go down. And of course, their whole model is based upon increasing tax revenues over the years, paying off all this debt that they're piling on us. So, penciled in a growth of between 2.5 and 3.3% next year. That's called inflation. So they expect next year, 2010, inflation will start. Okay, it's from the Federal Reserve. Pay attention. Right, over here in England, over here in UK, BAE Systems profits almost double. Defense giant BAE Systems has reported a strong rise in annual profits for 2008 as orders and sales grew. Okay, now they build all kinds of weird things, but their big thing is, right now, they've just got a contract to build a new aircraft carrier, all kinds of other things. Okay, so this article on the BBC website really doesn't go into much detail other than the fact that they've their profits have gone up. Pre-tax profits were £2.3 billion. Okay, up 91%. Okay. Over in the Telegraph, they take a slightly different view of the same story. BAE pays £500 million to top up plunging pension pot. Okay, so they made an extra how much was it? Just under £1 billion. Half of that money is going into their pension pot. And why is that? Because their pension pot has declined from 4.2 billion last year to £2 billion. So they're propping it up by half a billion. So if you're expecting your pensions to survive this mess, numbers don't look good. Okay, some other funny stories. Online networking harms health. This is from the BBC website. Obviously promoting the delusional idea that having a social network somehow is affecting your brain. Yet more spin. Okay, FBI. This is back to Stanford. FBI investigates Stanford over money laundering for dangerous Mexican drug cartels. Okay. Now they're starting to connect some of the really weird stuff. So Stanford was funding Mexican drug cartels. Okay. What do the Mexican drug cartels have to do? These stories are all linked. Mexican drug gang menace spreads in Guatemala. This is from yesterday evening on Reuters. The Guatemala, scarred by years of civil war and rampant street gang crime, is suffering a new scourge as violent Mexican drug traffickers put down deep roots in the country. Where's this leading? Next story, CNN. Drug violence spins Mexico toward civil war. A shootout in a border city that leaves 5 alleged drug traffickers sprawled dead on the street and 7 police wounded. A police chief and his bodyguards gunned down outside his house in another border city. Bad things are happening in Mexico. It's all not looking very good. However, I'm not a doom and gloomer. I'm not. I've linked here a list of the top 25 censored stories for 2009. Available from projectcensored.org. And some of them are quite interesting. So you might be interested in looking at that. Finally, last but certainly not least, I've got 2 videos linked. Goldman Partners borrowing tens of millions to cover margin calls. Okay, so Goldman Sachs, some of their partners, Goldman Sachs stock has dropped to such an extent that they're having to call in the margins on some of their stock for some of their partners. Now some of their partners are scrambling to find tens of millions of dollars to cover their losses, and that's not going to be a pretty sight. And finally, Juan Enriquez basically saying, okay, the financial situation is really bad. He's got some really funny slides in there. Now it's a long video, it's about 20 minutes long, but it's well worth it to make it through to the end. He has makes some very interesting points about where all this is going and what's going to happen after the financial crisis with regards to biotechnology and mechanical engineering, and what people have been up to in the last couple of years, particularly around stem cells and robotics. Okay, everyone, have a good afternoon. I will probably speak to you later. Peace, love, understanding. Think about things. Don't take what you read in the newspapers at face value. Okay, bye.